Hey everyone, we're going to go ahead and get started and run through a few things, and then we have a presentation from the hazardous materials and waste regulations for cannabis from the County of Sacramento. So I'm going to run through our agenda, take a few questions, and then turn it over to the county. Good afternoon. Hi, Pearl. Everyone say hi, Pearl. How are things at Abaton? Good. Everyone's still here. There you go. You're still alive. May of 2019. You made it this far. Good afternoon, everyone. So, I don't know, so I can't remember, I don't think this number has changed, number of CUP applications from the last time we did this. I think it was 201 last month, and I think it's 201 this month. So that rush is I think, certainly over at this point. We've approved 78 business operations permits, and our commitment continues to be, when you're ready, you've gotten your CUP, you've done your build out, you're ready for your certificate of occupancy. We'll make sure that that your operating permit, provided that you've submitted a complete one and has everything and is sufficient, will not be the holdup. Volatile manufacturing. Right now, that's slated for July 23rd. I believe that people are generally getting comfortable with it, especially with cities like Davis having kind of jumped in front of us and said, it's not that bad. But we'll see. So it's going to go on the Law and Legislation Committee on the 23rd, along with some other potential amendments to increase the gross revenues for what are considered to be small manufacturers. Right now, it's $100,000, which at the time, I will admit, was literally a number that I kind of pulled out of thin air, that maybe was a little too thin of air, if you will, and $100,000 gross receipts doesn't really provide sufficient room to pay bills, pay rent, do all those other things. So we are considering increasing that to what I think will be a more functional number for small manufacturers. And then there's a whole bunch of stuff in Title V that is more along the lines of technical and non-substantive, but if you are truly interested, I would encourage you to read through it as when we publish it for approval on the 23rd of July. UC Davis Graduate School of Management is finishing up their research project on the economic impacts of cannabis inside the city of Sacramento. We have had some preliminary results back from them, and I'll just say that they're pretty interesting. There's also a survey that was sent out electronically to all of the, I guess, parties of record or contact persons for a whole bunch of for all of the applications. Please go back. We resent it. We extended the timeline to reply, but it's a 20-question survey. It's providing really good data on us as to kind of who you guys are from like a business standpoint. None of We don't need to know your name or anything like that. This is really just kind of how many employees do you have. We're really trying to support the research that UC Davis GSM is doing with this survey to really paint the picture of what does the cannabis industry economically mean to the city of Sacramento. Oh, and if you get an email or call from somebody at UC Davis GSM, I think it's John Rowe, R-O-W-E. That'd be a good email to return. Again, they're just doing research. It's anything that you share with them is confidential, and that it's your company information isn't really important to the study, but what you are doing and what you are investing is. Oh, and there's the survey. Close tomorrow. Oh yeah, unless we extend it until Monday, but Monday's. Please check your inbox. It probably would take you 10 minutes to do it. And if you would like to receive it, shoot Zara an email. We can send you the link. Yep, that happened. The first batch of neighborhood responsibility plan invoices went out on Tuesday or Wednesday. That's all I got to say about that. Happy to, talk with you individually about that if you'd like, but everybody kind of knows what those are at this point. I haven't even read this. Oh, an NOE must be filed with the county clerk. Interesting. All right, so the city and county, so if you didn't know the kind of backstory on this at the macro level was that local governments and the state weren't 100% aligned around what the CEQA requirements are and were or meant. They have, I think, reached a somewhat common outcome for all of them while recognizing that each city is meeting with its CEQA requirements slightly differently. If the city of Sacramento is fulfilling our requirement for CEQA through the conditional use permit process and a determination that that project through discretionary entitlement on an individual basis thus far have not had any CEQA impacts. Am I in the ballpark? They are exempt. Yeah. So your notice of exemption needs to be filed with the county clerk for a $40 fee. And the Office of Planning and Research, no fee. That is at the county level. County or state? State. Okay, OPR is state. So one is with the county, one is with the state. Yeah, don't forget that. Yes. Yeah, you're gonna want it to submit it directly. I mean, don't expect state government to talk to each other. You know better than that. We can barely figure it out in one building. No, file it with OPR, and you may even want to give them a copy of your ROD, or at least have that prepared also. But yeah, and then get that filed with the city clerk also. County clerk, sorry, county clerk, county. If you have a BOP application in with us and it is not complete and it's been sitting on Jamie's desk for 5 months or 6 months or 18 months, your clock is about to run out. So if it's not complete, we're going to deem it incomplete, and we're going to say thanks for playing. And if you'd like to reapply, you would be welcome to reapply, but we've got a few of these that have just been sitting on our desk for way too long, and if you're not serious about completing the application, then we can't really help you. Registered cultivators and registered manufacturers. We've been saying this for months. Get your building permit, do your build out, get your certificate of occupancy, get your business operating permit, and it will be in that order. Preceded by, of course, getting your conditional use permit. If you haven't gotten your conditional use permit, applied for a building permit, got your building permit, completed your build out, got a certificate of occupancy, on or by December 31st, we're going to deny your business operating application. You will have to close your doors. Anything inside will have to be dealt with and disposed of in a lawful and compliant manner that may or may not involve the BCC, Sacramento Police Department, Department of Public Health, CDFA, and everybody else and their mom. I've been saying this for months. So here's your deadline. It's either that, and if it comes down to this, I can. There's a likelihood that these would be housing in dangerous building cases. Power would be pulled from the building. It would be rendered non-operational in order to ensure that no activities to take place. So if you're a registered cultivator or manufacturer, if you know somebody who's a registered cultivator or manufacturer, please give them this timeline. If you have a non-operational business BOP, it is because you've completed your application. We've reviewed it. It is complete, but you're still going through your build-out process and phase. Please do not operate. You're operating. That might be grounds for, revoking your non-operating permit. So there are some folks out there that I think, to use the expression, are getting a little in front of their skis. So to all those people that are, I'm close enough to put plants in, I'm close enough to turn on the extraction facility, you're not. You're not close enough. And this is fair warning right now that you don't want the visit that comes from the Sacramento Police Department. Because the bottom line is doing this activity, growing a bunch of cannabis, manufacturing a bunch of cannabis without all of your necessary entitlements is what? Illegal. The Sacramento Police Department knows where all of you are. So if we come in and Keona comes in or Brian comes in or Fire comes in and says, hey, that's a bunch of plants in here. I didn't know you had your operating permit, and you don't. Just don't get in front of your skis, please. If it's a criminal activity, I'll just say in the past, as it relates to other criminal activity, the Sacramento Police Department, when they execute a warrant, the equipment that is used to conduct that illegal activity is seized along with, the plants. That means lights, tables. Don't get in front of your skis. And if you are in front of your skis, start figuring out really, really quickly how to back that one up. Fair warning. Spread the word. Yeah, same thing. Yeah, same thing. I think I just covered all of this. That's a really hard font to read. It's like camouflage. Cannabis at cityofsacramento.org. And with that, I'll take some quick questions and turn it over to Natasha from the county. No questions? One question. Ms. Tracy Stevens.
Tracy Stevens representing Natura. Can you tell me, Joe, when you might have the draft language on the volatile?
Yeah, let's see. It's supposed to go to July. That'll probably be. No, we should probably have that actually in a couple of weeks. It may already be done and working its way through. Stay in contact with Zara. She'll have, but it should be. I think it's almost done already. Just July with council takes a break for the first 2 weeks of July, and so scheduling was kind of like the earliest day. So it may be done sooner.
Hey, Joe. Question about BOPs. Have a situation where somebody has applied for the BOP under a CUP, but they never started lease commencement, and now looks like it's heading civil. Is there anything, you can't put two BOPs on one unit, correct? Like a new tenant starts his BOP.
Yeah, Lauren Hill said 2 MCs can't occupy the same space at the same time. I would have to see the specifics. I mean, you can have multiple businesses in one building. They have to be in separate suites. If this person isn't operating and is not in control of the property, they don't have a lease agreement, and somebody else does. I mean,
can we bring it to your office then and have you review it?
Sure, but you need to understand, my name's Paul, and that's between y'all as it comes to like how this stuff, who has the legal right to occupy that building is nothing to do with us, right? I mean, if you have to file an unlawful detainer, then, the city of Sacramento, that's between you and Sacramento court and the property owner and the tenant.
They never took possession of the property. They only put the BOP in back in December because state was pushing if you didn't get your temporary. So everything got rushed and pushed in advance, but now we're kind of waiting to see did they have a complete application that runs out July 31st.
Again, if they don't have control of the property, either like by physically or by lease, we would be inclined to take an application from someone who did have a lawful right to possess and exercise that building. That their application for a BOP is not somehow an anchor or guarantee attached to that property. Landowner still has control over their property to the extent that that they legally do.
Okay, thank you.
Sweet.
Nobody else has questions?
This is awesome. Wow. All right. If you would please welcome Natasha McClurg. Am I getting that right? Yay. Sure. Do you have a PowerPoint? Okay. Thank you for coming.
Hi, good afternoon. For those of you who don't know me already, my name is Natasha McClurg. I work with Sacramento County's Environmental Management Department, and I work in the CUPA programs. So today I'm just going to give you a brief overview. If I haven't been in your facility yet, you're probably still in build-out, so just pay attention to when you might need to call us in. Okay, so CUPA regulations for the cannabis industry. So first, what is a CUPA? So CUPA stands for Certified Unified Program Agency. I know, that cleared it right up, right? No, not at all. So there are 6 programs that we work underneath of CUPA. And for the county, Sacramento County, we are the regulatory CUPA, so all of the cities within the county fall under our jurisdiction as well. So CUPAs, we regulate hazardous materials, which would be the Hazardous Material Business Plan. That's going to dovetail off of your HMIS, if you're familiar with that, from fire. So pay attention to all of those requirements. Hazardous waste generators, so for you manufacturers and extraction facilities, that's going to be important for you. We don't really have any USTs or CalARC facilities, above ground petroleum storage tanks. Maybe you'll have a diesel generator on site, that might come into play. And then incident response, so if you're conducting illegal activities and we have to show up to clean up your site, that's when we would get involved there. So these are the regulations that you can look up and peruse at your leisure. I recommend being a little bit familiar with them before we come in. So the cannabis facilities that we regulate or don't regulate, we don't really go into distribution facilities. You don't really have any materials or waste that you generate on site, so you're not really going to see us. Cultivation, you do have quite a bit that you do there. All of your additives, your fertilizers, your light bulbs, your switch outs there, and your trimming activities, depending on the flammable solvent you use to clean your shears and your equipment, we come into play there as well. For manufacturing, your entire process will be regulated by us. You are generating many different hazardous waste byproducts that will need determinations. And then testing laboratories, those are really no different than any other testing laboratories that exist. If you're not familiar with those regulations, please give me a call. All right, so for cultivators, we've got fertilizers. Reportable quantities for those are going to be like 500 pounds to 1,000 pounds, depending on what your product actually is. We got nutrient additives, so that'll be at like 55 gallons. Carbon dioxide's at 1,000 cubic feet. Pesticides, 55 gallons. And then any of your wastewater that's generated on site, you'll need to make a wastewater determination for aquatic toxicity as well as your pH. So anything from 3 to a 12.5, you're good to go. Anything below that or above those, you'll need to make a hazardous waste determination on. And then your universal waste is going to be all of your bulb waste. You'll need to ensure that those are properly disposed of as well. Who can tell me what's wrong with this photo? Anybody's site that I've been into yet? Know what I'm going to say here? Not you, Ken. No takers? No? Okay. So we've got an open cup of isopropyl alcohol that we use to clean trimming shears. There are multiple issues here. We've got an employee with just this open container. This is volatile. It off-gases. You're creating a toxic and flammable environment for your employees to work in. It's not a great idea to start. Second, this is an open container of hazardous waste now, because you're cleaning your shears, and once it's no longer usable, it's hazardous waste. So we don't have labels, we don't have a lid, it's not properly sealed. Multiple violations would come into play for this. So I recommend cup with a lid, put a little label on it, or spray bottles with labels, little paper towels, wipe those down, and then make your proper waste determinations on your rinsates or your rags at that point. Any questions on that? Pretty simple. I didn't include many pictures because I didn't want to give any of you away. But that was in Sacramento. Yes, you have a question? You guys want GHS? Yes, GHS is the required documentation and labeling. Yes. Does everybody know what GHS is? The Global Harmonization System. Global Harmonization System. So it was adopted in 2015 by the entire world. So it's the same symbols no matter what country you live in. You should be following those labeling requirements. And training your facility employees annually on what those are. It does, yes. SOPs. If you don't have SOPs, please start creating SOPs. We need those. All right, manufacturers. Extraction, so if you have ethanol in reportable quantities, that's going to be 55 gallons. You'll have to report that. You're also going to generate hazardous waste off of that. Carbon dioxide, reportable quantities is going to be 1,000 cubic feet. Your machinery, you have those coolant oils that you have in there. Every time you change those out, that coolant oil, it's a hazardous waste. Your cannabis plant waste. So here's where it gets tricky. Those of you not familiar with the conversations going on between the state departments right now, DTSC has not made a determination on if the cannabis plant waste itself is hazardous or not hazardous. Please stay tuned. Ethanol extraction, if your cannabis waste is saturated with ethanol when you're doing your extraction, and then you try to recover your ethanol, we'll go through some ways that you can make a waste determination not based off of the aquatic bioassay. We'll talk about that in a minute. Post-processing, so your distillations and your filtrations. You've got your reportable quantities again. Your filters, they're going to be hazardous waste. You can try to make a waste determination. Other than that, I'll need a lot of documentation to back that one up. Your machinery, again, your coolant oils, your lipid residue, and your paraffin wax byproduct at the end that you cannot use, as well as any sesquiterpenes or unusable terpenes created throughout the process, as those are volatile. Testing laboratories. So we've got reportable quantities again, helium, nitrogen, hydrogen. Hydrogen is the only one at 200 cubic feet. Everything else is 1,000. Hazardous waste generation, you'll generate some acetonitrile, methanol, and nitric acid if you're doing all of your metals testings. So identifying waste, let's talk about that really quick. So waste, it is actually defined in regulations, so I've provided those regulations here for you to look up. Those are in the California Health and Safety Code and in Title 22 of the regulations. So any solid, liquid, semi-solid, or contained gaseous discarded material. So and then when is that waste a hazardous waste? It poses a substantial present or potential hazard to human health or the environment. So how do you make a waste determination? Regulation also provides you this information as well. You have 4 basic methods. Hazardous waste lists, so we've got federal RCRA lists, and then we've got the California lists. Then you can use your SDS, which it's no longer MSDS because GHS coming in 2015 dropped the M. Hazardous waste characteristics, even if it's not listed, you still have to think about your characteristics. Is it ignitable, reactive, toxic, corrosive? Those are the 4 that we regulate in California. And then laboratory analysis. So for waste determinations, these are all of the waste determination streams that you'll need to make your own waste determinations on. And you can do that multiple ways. So here's where we'll talk about the fish bioassay. So if you choose to do the fish bioassay on your cannabis plant waste, it will fail. It will kill all of the fish within 24 hours, but it will do that because of the biological oxygen demand. That's not exactly what we want from that test, so we're hesitant to say, yes, it's hazardous, yes, it's not hazardous. So if you do that test on any of your waste streams, it will fail, and then you have to manage it as hazardous waste. I have no wiggle room for you, and I cannot assist you at that point. If you would like to make a determination other than using that test, there is another way to do it, which we will sub-accept for right now. And that's going to be using your generator knowledge. So you're going to provide me the SDS on the actual solvents that you use, and then you're going to provide me any peer-reviewed articles on those residual solvents and their toxicity and how that would affect. I can't help you find that information. You're going to have to find that for yourself. And then the organics residual test for solvents in your waste stream. And if those residual solvents left in your waste stream are below the SDS ecological data and the peer review articles support your information, then we will say that does not increase the toxicity of what the plant matter would already be. Therefore, it would not be a hazardous on its own at this time. It's a difficult roundabout, but it can be done for now. So an issue that we've run into a lot frequently is your waste hauler. So any violations about illegal transportation of your hazardous waste are ultimately going to be your responsibility as the generator of the waste, not the transporter. We will write the violations for you. So as the generator, it's ultimately your responsibility because RCRA regulations are from cradle to grave. You are the cradle, so it's all yours. So if anything happens, you get the violations, not your transporter. So it's very important that if you generate hazardous waste, you have an EPID number that can be obtained at this website here. If you're a small quantity generator, very, very small, that's a VSQG or a CESQG, you can self-haul your own waste, but there are certain regulations that would apply. So I've provided a little website that's off of our website, and it'll tell you some qualifications there. If you generate waste any larger than that, you have to have a licensed transporter haul your waste. You need to verify that they're a licensed transporter, as that's your responsibility as the generator, provided the website where you can search that by county name or license number. With that being said, this is our cannabis team at EMD. If you have any questions, you can reach all of us at this email right here. If you would like to speak to us specifically, we're all sitting back there and we have cards. Please ask us any questions as you have them. But anybody have questions for me right now?
Will the presentation be available anywhere online for me to click on the links?
It'll be posted on the city's website.
Thank
for
you so much.
You're welcome. So that's, yeah. It's a little tricky. I can lead you so far in that as the regulator and not the consultant. So I can give you how you can do it, and you can create that. Creating waste profile sheets. If you obtain a licensed hazardous waste hauler, that is a service they actually provide with doing that. But you should have your standard operating procedures on making a waste determination, and I recommend having your waste hauler help you with that if I can't provide anything more than what I've already done.
Do you guys have an opinion on combining wastes that are like non-reactive, or would that be up to the waste hauler to determine?
No, that's under you as well.
Okay.
Yes. So there on your hazardous waste label, you can indicate like toxic, ignitable, reactive, whatever your waste is, and then you indicate if it's solid or liquid. You can combine solid and liquid waste streams as long as they are the same waste stream and they are compatible. And then as long as all of your waste streams are compatible, they can go in the same container.
Sounds good.
Hey, how you doing? It's not so much of a question, but kind of like a statement, if I may. My name's Andrew. I'm with Cannabis Waste Solutions. We have an extent background with hazardous waste. I do personally, being a hazardous waste hauler in the past. Transparency is huge. As the generator, because she did state it falls on the generator from cradle to grave. If you're not transparent with your waste provider, when they create that waste profile sheet, your waste could end up going all the way to another state and being rejected, having cannabis oils in it, crossing multiple state lines, being totally rejected, breaking to all kinds of federal laws, coming all the way back. It's a huge mess. You have to be transparent. And then knowing if you do have questions, you have to know like what you can mix together, what you can't. I understand that a lot of people have really good ideas and they have a good chemistry background, but hazardous materials and hazardous waste, totally separate things. Like there's certain things you just can't mix in large quantities, reaction points, they're shock sensitive, all kinds. So be very transparent with them because we are a new industry. We want to be transparent, so we need to be honest with each other, and there's nothing to hide anymore. There's nothing to hide. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Maybe I missed it, but what are I guess most problematic elements of the cannabis industry? I mean, you've got plant matter that's green and organic. You've got manufacturing byproducts that range from kind of like ethanol based or even hydrocarbon based from the point of extraction. You've got uses like isopropyl alcohol, generally in smaller quantities. Where do you see like the control?
So the bulk of the problems right now in the cannabis industry, I would say, are twofold. It's with lack of knowledge in hazardous waste determination and regulations, and it's lack of knowledge of the hazardous waste transporters. The generators generally lean on the hazardous waste transporters quite a bit, as I'm sure you're familiar with, for the knowledge, because it is what they do. And then if you have an ill-educated hazardous waste transporter, then your generator ends up being ill-educated as well, and that causes so many more problems. And another biggest issue is there isn't really an avenue that's been created for recycling of the waste streams generated by the cannabis industry. We're seeing a big issue with everybody shredding all of the waste on site. We're throwing all of the e-batteries and everything in together. We're actually shredding hazardous universal waste altogether, creating an ignitable source. So that's really our biggest concern right now. Question?
Going back to the GHS labels, can we use handwritten GHS labels? They make
Absolutely.
These, you can.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank
the
you.
only thing I would caution you on labels is please do not make the label this big and do not put it on top of the container. If I'm standing over here and the container's over there, I need to be able to at least see it. Any other questions? Joe, do you have anything else? It was a brief overview. There's a lot more to the hazardous materials and hazardous waste regulations. We can definitely do it more in depth if we have more questions, or if you'd like to sit down, we can go through it for sure. There's a lot. Thank you.
Just a quick one.
Yeah.
Because we could all use this information, is it possible the county would consider doing a class?
Yeah, absolutely. We actually did do 2 classes before the regulations came out, December before it was passed and then January after. But if that's something that the industry would like, we can absolutely do that again. I know a lot of you are still in build-out phase, so absolutely. All right. Well, with that, thank you guys so much. Oh, Eric, you got something?
Yeah, if you are interested in attending that class, what would be the best way to contact you to let you know that class is happening? Because when we tried last couple times, that was the major hurdle, was trying to contact everybody. Excuse me, to let them know the class was happening.
The city could send it to the stakeholder list. That would work perfectly.
Okay, that's something we can definitely work on for you guys. Absolutely. All right. If that's all, thank you guys so much for your time. Have a great day.
So if we have a cultivation site and we get the BOP and we get all that certificate of occupancy, can we remodel after that? So as long as we have all that other stuff, we can then at that point we can submit new drawings and tear it all down and redo it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. I mean, so it's just changing your floor plan and all that. That's all stuff that that the state wants to know, that we want to know too. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's basically,
No, absolutely.
Thank you.
One more over there.
Hey, Joe. Am I correct in understanding the 1% neighborhood responsibility fee is moving forward, and being enacted? Because basically, the report that was completed kind of suggested more research was needed, more comprehensive research, and there's other research, at least in the market, that's come out since then that seems to kind of address the property values issues and some of the other things that were referenced in that report. I was just wondering if there's any plan for a follow-up sort of research commission or any way to address that. No.
There was a group of folks that selected kind of complete their own study, and were in the process of figuring out kind of like those options. They range from city doing an RFP to do kind of one study in a whole bunch of different sites, or asking folks to kind of complete their own study, using a qualified qualified parties. But we've not made a determination or disposition as to what that even recommendation would be.
Okay, hypothetically, when and if that is completed, the 1% fee could be revisited or reassessed. Nope. so, so it's irrespective of any findings of. Right. Right. Okay. Just curious.
Sorry about the NRP. So, from my understanding, the NRP is signed by the building's owner. If you, as the cannabis business, are not the owner of the building, how do you ensure that the money that you give to the building owner to give to Sacramento makes it to Sacramento? Or are the owners allowed to kind of give permission to the business to pay the city directly? How is that part regulated and checked?
So there's probably a number of arrangements that could be made, including an operator paying that directly.
So that's allowed. Okay, thank you.
Just why would the invoice go to the property owner? I thought the property owner was the last resort. If the cannabis business didn't pay, then you could go after the property owner. In many cases, the property owner is nowhere to be found, and then the business could be held liable for not turning it in because the invoice went to the property owner instead of the business.
Yeah, technically the agreement is between the property owner and the city, so maybe we need to kind of notify all parties.
Yeah, it would be much more helpful for us if, for most businesses, if it went to the business, who's supposed to be the first line of paying it. They won't even know our gross receipts if they didn't, if you have a landlord.
It was.
Another
Yeah.
question over here, Jim.
Yeah, sorry.
Another question over here.
Sorry. So exactly, if the invoice is going to the property owner, how does the property owner know what our gross receipts are to tell you? So. But how can they be billed if they are not aware of the gross receipts? How do we report our gross receipts to you? What is the... I don't understand, sorry.
Is the NRP based off of gross receipts?
Yeah.
So how can they get a bill if the gross receipts aren't reported to them and they can't report them to you if they don't have them? You process the calculations based on what the business reports to you, correct? And the business doesn't have to report that to the owner of the property.
They report it to us, we generated a statement.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. my understanding was when it was originally implemented by the council, when I was still working on this, it was determined that it was supposed to be paid as gross receipts of the business, and it's strictly voluntary and remains so, everyone. That said, it should, the only way to keep that information confidential, I mean, your landlord could get the information on your gross receipts and decide to increase your rent. It's really putting the businesses at risk for that information to go out, and there's no guarantee that the businesses are going to get the invoice from the owner, especially if the owner is one of those that knows they can get more rent from another tenant, so they'd like to see that business fail now that rents have gone up so much. This is really something that should be addressed as soon as possible, especially since they went out.
If a owner of a building has 5 suites, is the bill going to be sent for each individual unit or collectively?
Anyone else has questions?
Not really a question, a statement. Joe knows what's coming. Todd from 101.5 K-Hits. I'm here today just to meet you guys and meet the stakeholders because we're going to be the first commercial radio station in Sacramento accepting cannabis ads and cannabis products. So if you're interested in marketing your business in the mainstream and being on the first radio station that will, I'll be hanging out outside.
There will be a presentation next month also from a state agency. Any other questions going on? Thank you all very much. So small numbers. I'm not inundated with like 500 people anymore. It only goes 50 minutes. First, remember when we started doing these? It would be 3 hours. 3 hours.
So we did our first social class in SAC last month. It fucking did awesome. We got fabulous feedback from everyone.
Kimberly Cargill sent me a text. I think while she was in it, she's like, "This is